Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to set up the InDesign document for the back cover, the spine, and the cover for the Print Ready output for your Type 2 Assessment 1 requirement. So I'm in InDesign and I go to File and I go to New and I go to New Document. So the magazine that we're doing is A4 in finished size. So however, if we're doing the artwork for the front and the back cover with the spine in the middle, we need to create one longer, larger piece of artwork. So the height of it will stay with the 297. However, the width needs to be wider. So the cover and the back cover together would be 420. However, we need to give space for the spine. So the spine being 5 mil, we need to add that 5 mil in. Now if you want to make the spine a little bit bigger, perhaps 7 or 10 mil the maximum, then you have to make sure that this number is changed so it takes into the account of the larger spine area. So then we go down and we have the margins. So with margins, as we've talked about, margins can be borders, but they're also an area that give you some guide about having your text and your image a certain distance from the trim. Now some designs will have your images bleed off, some designs will have some text bleeding off, but this just gives you an idea and a guide to keep sort of a certain bit of a distance for your text away from the edges when it's not supposed to bleed off. So I'm just going to change mine to 10 mil for now. If you want to have different margins, heights from top and bottom or sides, then you actually click off the link button. For now I'm keeping it as a link to have everything equal throughout. Then you need to make sure that you put in your bleed area. So bleed should be anywhere from 3 to 5 millimeters. The requirements for this assessment are 3 millimeters, so I'm putting in 3. And once again, we have a link button here, so the 3, once I put it in one and click in the other, they'll all come in as 3. Now the one other thing you must do for creating this artwork so that the fold lines are shown to the printer is to add a slug area top and bottom in your document. This allows the printer to see the lines that you have drawn, but it's in an area that is not printable. So once you do that, you press Create and you have your full document. So looking at this, from this white edge to this white edge is the actual printable area for the document. The pink line here is representative of the spine, of the margin, and the red one is representative of the bleed area, and the blue is the slug, and then we have the blue at the bottom as the slug area as well. Okay, so what we need to do is set up some guides so that we know where the spine sits in the middle of this document. So I'm just going to make the document just a touch larger so it can be more accurate. But what I do is I pull my guides from the ruler on the side, and I'm looking for my 210 side. So here we go. So that's 210. So my back cover, so you always do back, so back, spine, cover. And the reason you do that is it's because it's flat, and when it folds, then because the paper opens on this side. So if you look here, from this area, corner to the blue line is 210, and we want to represent our 5 mil, so we take another guide and we come over here to 215. I'm just slightly off, 215. So our blue right here and here is 5 mil, and from here to the edge becomes 210. If you want to check, you can go up to this corner where the two rulers meet, click on it, drag it down, drag it to your spine area here. What it does is brings your 0 margin here and your 0 coordinates are here, and if you look here to the end, you'll be up at 210. So for now, I'm just going to put them back, so if I double click on it, it'll all move back. Now we need to add our dashed lines. The dashed lines go in the slug area. The slug area should be from the bleed line up into the slug. How we create this is to use the pen tool. So I go to this area where 210 is, I click on it, I hold my shift key down to make a straight line. So I usually make my line about 15 mil long. So I've done that. I'll just click up onto the black arrow. And so now you see the line, but the line is 1 millimeter wide. Now that might not sound like very much, but the fact is when you need accuracy, you need to have a much finer line there. So what I'll do is I'll change that into 0.3. It can also be 0.25 as well, but I'm doing 0.3. So we have that, but right now that's a solid line, and the solid line to a printer means to cut. And obviously we don't want them to cut there because that's right in the middle of the book. So in order to show a fold line, that's represented with a dash line. So we have to change this to a dash. So we will go over to the stroke coordinates. Now if you don't have this already open, you would go over to Window, to Stroke, and click on that. So mine's open, so I have to bring it up again, and like that. And it brings up this window. So in there you can see that I have that 0.3 of a point for the length, for the width of the line. Now I want to change to the type. So I want to change it from a solid line to a dashed line down here. And you'll see that there's some adjustments here, and it has 12 point here in the dash. So if I click off, you'll see that I have two lines, and they're both actually 12 point. So I want them to be smaller. So I'll go in there and make them 3 with a gap of 2, 3, 2. And by doing that, it's actually made there's smaller gaps in between, and the lines are smaller, and then it's become a real dashed line. So from there, I need to represent the other line, so the 5 mil. So I will click on that. I will hold the Option key down because that is for repeat, for copying, and I'll hold my Shift key down so it doesn't move out of place, and I'll bring it over to the 215. Once that's done, I tend to group them, and at the end I'll end up locking it so it doesn't move out of place. But for now, what I need to do is, this is representing the top part, but you actually need to repeat these dashes at the bottom as well so that the printer has something to align off of. So I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see the bottom. So I'm going to highlight the two of them. I'm going to hold my Option key down and my Shift key, and I'm going to drag down below the bleed line, and I'm going to release. And now you see I have it at the top and I have it at the bottom. So the printer can see it. It's in the slug area, which won't print, and he can see. So the other thing that, just to make clear, is that the lines need to either be black or in registration. Registration is a color 4 registration, so it shouldn't print. But some people will do it in black. So either or, as long as it's not in a printable area, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so this is done. And so once this is ready, what you just do is you start setting up. You bring in your image box, and you would bring your masthead into this area. Then you'd make another box, and perhaps your image bleeds all the way off like this. And so you would go and find an image. I think I had this one. I'm just going to bring in anything right now just to make it look interesting. Okay. And then you would then use your text tool to write all the text that you need to do, like issue, number 1, and then you would style it. Okay, so all with creating the artwork, Your image and your masthead would be brought in because they would be artworks that were done in Illustrator or touched up in Photoshop, and they would be brought in as images. But the text that you put on should be, unless it's embedded in your image, should be created in InDesign. That way you can, once a template is made, someone can go back and change, so it's not issue 1 anymore, it's issue 2. So if you've gone and created issue 1 inside the actual image of the so perhaps the masthead or perhaps the cover art or something like that, then the next issue someone's going to have to figure out and create it. So all that secondary text, this, the magazine name and so forth, I mean sort of the title and the article names and everything should be created with the text tool in InDesign. So that's how you do the back cover, spine, and cover artwork together. Then what you would do is ultimately you would, where would it be? Output. You first do pre-flight in output. So we went to, I'm not sure if you can see this panel at the top, so I'm just going to say it. So you go over to Window and Output and you go to pre-flight. And you get a window up, and that will tell you if there are any errors. So if you're missing any images or text or so forth, and it will give you that information. If everything's okay, then you would go over to File and you would go to Package. Okay? And you would package your entire document. And once again, you take a look. It should have your fonts and your links and your color and all that. I'm not going to do that now. And then you also need to create a print ready PDF. So with this, we go to Export, so File, then Export, and you go to Adobe PDF, and you say Save, and you'll get a window that comes up. And in here you'll have all the different high quality down to low, small file size. So for print ready, for printing is high quality. For digital, it's small quality. Okay, so you go up here. Then you have all your other information. You have your marks and bleeds. So for print, we're asking you to do crop, bleed, registration, and color bar. You also have to remember to tick the bleed. Use bleed settings because you've already set them in. And then you have to remember to tick include slug area, because if you don't tick that, then it will not show. Okay, and it's also showing the output. So you have the different outputs here. We have your ink manager showing that it's CMYK. And there's just, you can flick through. It's always interesting to just sort of go through and look. And then you say export and it will create a PDF for you. And you have to submit that PDF as well. So let's ignore some of these new things that are popping up. So just a quick one. So that finishes this. So just a quick one. So when you create the artwork for the web cover, all you need to do is do new document. It's just A4 because you are using no crop marks. You don't have a spine. So it's A4. It's portrait if that's what it is. If you ended up doing a cover in landscape, you change it to landscape. You could do facing pages, or you can just do single ones for this one because you're doing a front cover and just a back cover. It's up to you. So I'm just going to do single pages right now. Once again, margins, you put in all your margins, you put in your bleed, but you do not need a slug area, so you can get rid of that, and you say create. So here we have an A4 page. What I would do then, I would go over to my document, I would copy all my front cover information, I would go in here, and I would paste it in and make sure it's all in the right thing. And that's where these margins help. They're guides, so you know where you put everything. Okay? And then what I would do is go to the page, I'd add another page, and then I would go back and copy my back cover information, and I would put it on here. And then export, you would write the title of it, what it is, and I would go to small quality. and then I would export. I'm not going to do that because I'm just going to get funny windows popping up. And that's it. So I'm going to end it here. If you have any questions, please contact me.